welcome to the podcast. This is the first and likely only podcast that is heavy into metal and trombones. I am your host, Aaron Wilson. I'm a professional trombonist and a professor of music. Joining me for this and every podcast is my brother, Brian Wilson. He is a longtime heavy metal bassist who now lives in Juneau, Alaska. Together, we are the Brothers in Horns.
Metal that's pretty good.
Metal intro. I don't know what's going to happen after that. So, yeah, I'll probably re-record that. We'll see. I don't know.
I thought it was good. I say keep it.
Keep it.
So if somebody does, so the only person that listens to this, our mom listens to this, she can see your improvements from month to month on how you read 3 sentences that are already rewritten on the screen in front of you.
I was going to do it the lazy way and record it and then paste it over, but I can read it every time.
Yeah, I want to see the progression of your reading skills as a doctor and professor in college.
Damn, I'm being evaluated here.
One of which I am not.
Let's just jump right into it then. So this podcast, for those of you listening, the 3 or 4 people that are listening, blood relatives mostly, I'm sure, is about heavy metal and about trombone. And I've been wanting to do this podcast I've been thinking about doing this podcast for about 3 or 4 months now, and talked to Brian about it, I don't know, a couple months ago, and he seemed really interested in it. But figured it would be a good place to start is just kind of share our backgrounds with music and kind of what we do. I'm a trombonist. I've been a trombonist for 28 years. I'm a professor of low brass at Brandon University, which is in a small town of Brandon, Manitoba, right in the middle of the country. I spent most of my career playing, your typical trombone affair, like recitals, chamber music, symphony orchestra gigs, that kind of stuff. But in the past couple of years, I've been really trying to do some different things. And one of those things is just kind of branching out into different genres and trying to see where the trombone fits, because there's a lot of music out there to be had. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Brian, tell us about where you're coming from.
Oh, man. Well, hello. My name is Brian. I don't like talking about myself, but I'll try. I'm up here in icy Alaska, Juneau, Alaska. I've lived here for 7 years, but as my brother is, can't remember if he said because I wasn't really listening, originally from Olympia, Washington. How I fit into this discussion, I've been playing bass guitar for now 26 years, which is scary to think about. I started when I was 16, so if you could do the math, that makes me 40 years old. I'm self-taught bass guitar player, never had a lesson, but I kind of learned through listening to countless hours of Steve Harris bass lines and turning on the radio and trying to learn songs, and just fell in love with it. I love the role that a bass guitar plays in bands, and just kind of been my thing. I've been in multiple bands over the years, namely mostly back in the early 2000s. We'll talk a little bit about Power Castle. You listened to them right at the intro of this podcast. We have a CD coming out soon, which I'm sure we'll touch on at some point. Another band called Speed of Darkness. Yeah, Speed of Darkness, Fever in all caps. So it was mostly like, metal bands, but I've been in other like kind of different types of like lighter like kind of music too. I did an album with Squirrel Meadow about like 7 years ago or so, and I don't know. I'm just a music guy. I like playing music. And yeah, I'm excited for this podcast. As Aaron said, we've talked about this for about 5 minutes, and now we're doing it. So you'll get to know me along the way, I guess.
So I just have 2 questions before we go on with this. One, if you start when you're 16, right?
Yeah.
You've been playing for 26 years?
Yeah.
That adds up to 42, right?
Oh, no. Okay. 24 years I've been playing. The producer can edit that out. Nobody heard it ever. 24 years. Okay, next question.
when you picked up the bass? Why did you choose bass and not guitar or drums or anything else like that?
Yeah, so I knew there was zero chance in hell I could learn how to play guitar or drums. And so bass seemed like the entry point that I could get into. Yeah, that's sort of it. Actually, I don't know. I just like like I said before, the rhythm section of bands. Like the music I'd listen to, it was like I always knew the bass player's name. And like I just thought it'd be really cool to kind of learn how to fit the style of music I wanted to play and the style that I played into the larger picture from the vantage point of a bass player. And I don't know, that's just kind of why I was just drawn to it. And yeah, fate.
Well, I'm really I'm excited to hear your perspective as a bass player, because I teach a lot of tuba players, and I feel like the tuba is very similar kind of role in
Sure.
The concert band in terms of like
As in they're like the lead
going.
Guitar.
Oh my gosh, it's so important. Nobody wants to give the tuba players credit, but tuba is so important.
Oh
so
yeah,
important.
totally.
So like I'm excited to hear your perspective on that. That's cool. So
why did you start playing trombone?
So the main reason, like I thought about playing trombone for a while, and then I got into band, and there's like 14 or 15 kids that want to play trombone. I'm like, I don't know if I want to play the same instrument as all these other ones. I'm the only one that's still playing out of those 14. But the thing that sent me over the edge, the thing that like said, this is the instrument you can play, is Mr. Allison, Mr. Greg Allison, both of our former band director.
Great guy. Yep.
Great guy. He impersonated a race car on the trombone. And I'm like, well, that's the one I got to play. That's what fifth grade Eric said. Well, you got to play that one. And 28 years later, here I am.
It's really weird that you said that, because like when you said Greg Allison, the first thing that came to my mind was him impersonating Kermit the Frog.
Oh my gosh, he has a great Kermit impression. I'm sure I'll hear it because I'm playing on the Sogo Ho Ho when we get back.
I can't wait to go
to Washington. I can't. I bet. How long has it been since you've seen Mr. Allison?
Oh God, I mean, I was probably in high school, just like passing by his house when he was like mowing his yard or something.
Oh, we're gonna have to get a picture with him.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it.
Anyway, so let's kind of get into this. So one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, actually the main reason doing this podcast, is I just want to hang out with my brother and talk about music and whatnot. That's like the main thing.
Perfect.
But some of the things that we're trying to get out of it, again, I'm trying to figure out where the trombone fits into heavy metal, if it does or if it doesn't. I think we can make it work.
Oh yeah, we'll make it work. It might not be good, but it'll work.
It'll get the job.
Song. Yeah.
But we are going to, Brian and I and some folks from Olympia are going to put on a show in late April, at least as we're hoping to do. Some cover tunes, some original songs. We'll get into that more later on. But I also want to see if there's like a possibility of doing like a 4 trombone heavy metal group, or just seeing what I can do with this, because I think it'd be awesome. And this ties into this larger project I'm doing. I got this 3-year Canada Council grant with my friends Brendan Anger and Peter Morin. And part of it is exploring our home territories and our family's connection to music, and more so on my end, my family connection to music. And there's not a lot in our family.
No, there is not.
For music makers. It's pretty much just us two. I remember our other brother, Jason, our oldest brother, Jason, used to play the piano, and he played Pachelbel's Canon in D.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
I remember him playing the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, like forever. Yeah. So hang on, before we go into that, you just unpacked a lot there. So we got a podcast, we got a concert, we got another band that has 4 trombones in it, which is crazy. And then we got what was the last thing? that
the,
we're doing?
the Canada Council project thing.
The Canada Council project. This is highly ambitious stuff. Are you feeling up for it?
Well, not yet. That's why we're doing the podcast.
I mean, we got a show in what, 6 months? We haven't even rehearsed.
That's the best way to do it, though. You got to give yourself a gig, and then you get ready for the gig.
Well, okay, all right. Well, we have 0 songs. We better get into this then. So.
Brian, we are both consummate professionals. We will get this. We will make this work.
You are correct. We are both professional musicians. You get paid in your job, and I've made $20 once at a show. So
hey, that counts.
That counts. I'm not reporting it on my taxes, but we are technically professional. So
I've played for beer on multiple occasions. I played for beer one time, and we drank so much that they made us pay them because we drank a lot of beer.
Good old days.
That was a polka band.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, that's their mistake first. If you're gonna book a polka band and pay in beer, you're gonna be drank dry. That's the way it's gonna go. So
of course.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'm getting us off track. Let's go.
I know. Let's do it. I
just wanted to review so I knew what I was getting myself into.
So we are going to look at the 1988 album from Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. Brian, why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about this album? I understand it's your favorite one.
Yes, absolutely. It's great cue in there. 1988. This is a long time ago. I'm not going to try to do the math, as we've learned how many years ago that was. But yeah, so let's just start with Iron Maiden here. As you can see, if you're watching this, if we figure out how to do it, I'm wearing an Iron Maiden soccer jersey that I bought in 2000, which was 22 years ago. Thank you very much.
Nice.
And I grew up sort of a super fan of this band. And if you haven't listened to Iron Maiden, or if you just heard Run to the Hills or The Trooper or something, do yourself a favor, just go buy any album of theirs and just turn it on and listen. Because it's really the songs that are most known from this band are not their best songs. They're poppy.
They're good, though. They're good
they're
songs,
great. They're great, but they're there's so much more to it, which is why I wanted to start with this album. Because if you were to poll 100 Maiden fans and you say, list your top 3 albums, I guarantee there's maybe 5 people would list this as a top 3 album.
Oh, this one's so good, though. I have listened to this album so many times in the past. Since you recommended it, I think I've probably listened to it 100 times.
Exactly. So this is their 7th album. Right. A lot of people pair this album with the one that came before it, which is called Somewhere in Time. And they're both very conceptual. They're kind of a departure from the feel of some of the older music. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is more so of it. It's an evolutionary time of the band where they started to experiment a little more. They're already huge at this point. They've released Peace of Mind. They've released Power Slave. They did the Live After Death tour. They were at peak Maiden during this time. So this was a really kind of a controversial album because they're introducing new things like synthesizers into this. In fact, the album just kicks right off into a synthesizer, arpeggiated synthesizers. They never hired a synth player for the band, but they just figured it out themselves and incorporated it in. So I thought, hey, this is just an opportunity for me to listen to my favorite album a little more. So let's start here. But it's a rather short album, 44 minutes, 8 tracks. It's pretty unique in that 5/8 of the album is co-written. So there's a lot of collaboration in this. And the more you learn about Iron Maiden as a band and the styles of each of the individual members, you'll see that it really screams through as that's the case. Because sometimes you're like, oh, this is a song written by Steve Harris and he's writing Dave Murray's parts and Adrian's parts. In this one, it's totally the other way around. And they incorporated Bruce Dickinson in the writing of half of the songs, the vocalist. So that's where the concept really came in. They were like having a conversation. What should we call it? Seventh album. Have you ever heard of this seventh son parable, where this myth of having second sight and this good versus evil kind of complex? And that's where they went with this album. So that's why I chose this one. I feel like I just talked for a long time.
Oh man, no, I'm fascinated. Like I didn't know anything about the writing process of it, but like I haven't gotten much opportunity over the years to write music.
Right.
But with like the latest things that I'm doing, like I'm in this group of the modern synthesizer player. We call ourselves Wire and Bone. Check us out on YouTube and Instagram and all that. It's a plug there. But we're getting a chance to write music, and it's together. It's a collaborative experience, and like it's pretty amazing what you can come up with when you're bouncing ideas off of people.
Absolutely. And it's cool because that project's so outside the box. And that was, I forgot to mention this. That was another reason why I wanted to do this, is because of your mixing of brass and electronic. It's sort of like the same. Well, this like mixing the two concepts together as well and seeing where the cards fell. So.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it's good. So, do you want to go first in terms of saying kind of what you picked up, or do you want me to go first? Like, what do you want to do?
I'll introduce Moonchild as a song. So here's the deal, fellow listeners, is what we're going to do is we're going to each time maybe talk about one or two songs and focus on what I'm hearing. Aaron's going to have some questions about it for this piece, and then we'll get into the rest of it after that. So Aaron asked, hey, what's like two songs we can listen to from this album and discuss? I chose the first track of the album called Moonchild, and then I chose the title track, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. So I guess we'll start with Moonchild.
Just a quick note to the listeners of the podcast. Surprise, surprise, we are too poor to afford the music to go into this podcast. So if you want to hear what we're talking about, including the bass lines and the air raid vocals, various vocal stylings of Bruce Dickinson, please click on the link in the show notes. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the pod.
Why did I choose it? I don't know. It's like the first track on there, but it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's a hell of a way to start an album. Like I said, it starts right off like with this arpeggiated synth, synthesizer on there, which was super controversial at the time for them, and just jumps in telling this like very aggressive vocals right off the bat in the album, like starting the album like, I am he, the bornless one, the fallen angel watching you, like super mythical and nerdy, powerful stuff. But the track actually is loosely based off a book that Aleister Crowley wrote in 1923. And if you don't know who Mr. Aleister Crowley is, you may know him by the Ozzy song, Mr. Crowley.
Oh yeah, I was about to say we're going to have to listen to some Ozzy later.
Maybe that'll be the next episode too, like kind of carry the theme over. I love Mr. Crowley. But he was a occultist from England in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so they actually based this song loosely off of that book that he wrote. But it's just super melodic. It's like high energy. Like if you listen to, like, this is an example of like, and we probably can't afford the rights to play this music on this podcast. We'll see. Mr. Moneybags over there thinks we might, but we'll see. Like it is like to the nose, like the drums are flying off the rails. Like Steve Harris on the bass, it's just like flying. He doesn't use a pick. He only uses two fingers.
I was going to ask you about the bass sound on it, because like you hear, because I wanted to compare, because I knew you'd talk about bass because you're a bass player. And I was trying to compare it to
the best part of the song.
Oh, it's so great. Like you listen to this one, and I'm going to admit, like I don't know all of Iron Maiden's music as well as you do, obviously, but like the bass is so percussive in this. Yeah. Like you can hear the articulation of it so much more. And like you listen to something like Judas Priest, was one that I listened to for the bass. I listened to a little bit of Dio also for the bass part, and a lot of theirs is like boom, 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 boom. You get like the tone of it, but this is just like so much articulation with it.
Yeah,
and I was
clicky
wondering,
bass.
oh my gosh, it's so great though. Really, it drives it more than the drums does. I think it really drives the tempo. And
Totally.
I was curious on what you obviously have you done this as a cover, this particular song?
Moonchild. We have not done Moonchild as a cover, just because there's so many Maiden songs out there. We've covered a lot,
Oh, yeah.
but I've played this song quite a bit, and that's like quintessential Steve Harris style right there. The way he does it is, one, his stuff runs through like 4 compressors like in the back, so it's like very dialed in tone, but he cranks his tone knob up and he boosts the lows and he boosts the highs. And so what that's going to do is give you this fat, punchy, clean sound. And with the tone knob on the guitar cranked, you're going to hear the action of his fingers on the strings itself. And he has he plays on flats, or like they're kind of like a flat wound type of string as well, which is like a jazz. Typically you like hear for like jazz music or whatnot. So it gives this deeper, full tone to it. Because usually if you just crank the tone knob and you don't have all this stuff, it's going to sound really tinny and small. But he's just been able to find it. Oh, and he uses these pickups called SPB3s, which are like 1/4-inch rods. It's like twice the size of the metal picking up the sound of the string.
Oh, really?
So it is like, very unique. And when he plays like that, it allows one for Nico McBrain, the drummer, to have a lot more range of what he does, because it is almost a percussive style there where Steve is keeping like the train moving. And yet that's why you see like Nico do these like crazy fills all over the place that aren't necessarily on the 2 and 4 all the time.
Yeah.
And it's because he got Steve Harris there just like ticka 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 like the whole time. And so go ahead.
Oh, it's so syncopated too. Like his playing, like it's not just like dun 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 dun. It's like dun 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 dun. It's like stuff like that. Like where he's like playing with like what the other guitars are doing, what the vocal line's doing. Like it really fits the music well. It's not just a bass line.
That's the funnest thing about playing Maiden songs is like the role of the bass player is you're just kind of covering for everyone. You're weaving in and out of who you're harmonizing with, who you're syncopating with. Sometimes you're taking lead and you're the only one playing something interesting. And on this song, and especially on Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, you'll see that when you listen to it. It's like it's this constant interplay, like rhythm guitar to bass guitar. Like rhythm guitar will play a lick and the bass guitar will come in right behind it, like with a fill. And they're just constantly handing off. And then other times all 3 will harmonize, like both guitars and the bass, like at once. And it's like a lead bass, but it's very blues inspired. You know how the blues bass plays really interesting stuff behind everyone else. And then the freestyling goes above. So I love it, man.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's a shame because I listen to stuff like on these kind of headphones, these tiny little earbuds or whatever, and you don't pick up on it, but then you put it on like an actual stereo or really good headphones. And this is for all the music. It's like bass doesn't get enough respect.
Oh yeah.
In any of the music. It's like it's like so important. It's like the blood of the group.
Yeah.
And
that's why I never understood why like a lot of the metal bands or bands in general just hide the bass behind, as if it's like, the organ player in church that has this foot pedals, they're just like what's the point of that? Like it's usually just playing what like the lowest note that the guitar is holding, which is just boring. Like you could do a lot more with it. But I think like pertinent to like this project, I was trying to figure out like where a trombone would fit into this, and I'm interested actually to hear your thoughts first before I go in, because I've listened to these songs a million times. So when you turn this on, were you just like, what the heck? Like how, what was your first thought of like how it would like come in?
Well, in thinking about this, and I've always been drawn to vocals in music. I'm just fascinated by vocals, and not just in metal, but just in all sorts of music. And like the trombone is in like the same range as a lot of these vocalists. Like it can play like all these different notes. And I'm really curious to like try to emulate that style that the vocalist does. And we're going to be talking about Bruce Dickinson here in just a moment, all the crazy stuff that he did with these vocals, because it's incredible.
Is still doing.
And still doing, yeah. But like I pictured like the trombone could definitely fit into that role. I think you could do trombone for like a bass guitar kind of thing, but it would have to be a lot better bass trombone player than I am. Like I'm a tenor trombone player, like,
yeah,
and it's just unrelenting.
Like how fast can you go? Like like I don't know.
Oh, you could do like
is that common?
Oh yeah, we can do like the dum 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 dum. We can do like the double tonguing kind of things. Like that's not a problem. It's just like I'm just trying to think of doing that for a 45-minute set, followed by another 45-minute set or whatever. Like that sounds exhausting.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I can leave that to a bass trombone player. I don't want to do it. I don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
But like you could do like solos and stuff. You could do like guitar solo-esque kind of things. It couldn't be as wiggly and crazy as some of the guitar solo things. But like I think like when I was thinking about this, I thought back to there's a great trombone player from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s named J.J. Johnson. And like when bebop started, bebop has a lot of like a lot of like really fast kind of licks in it. Right. And like that's why you get a lot of saxophone players and pianists and all that doing a lot of that stuff. And a lot of people didn't think like the trombone could fit into that style. And what JJ did is he like took the same kind of language, but he kind of pared it down. So it was still impressive. Like he still had licks that were really fast and everything, but he just played with rhythm a lot. He just had this style that just, and this swagger to his playing that just fit right in with that. So it's like, I think I could, with practice, work on getting like some sort of like guitar solo kind of sound.
Sure.
But it certainly wouldn't be as, wiggly as the guitar stuff is. So I don't know.
This is interesting though. I wanted to ask you first because you actually listed everything except for where I thought the trombone would fit in initially. And that was the rhythm guitars. And
rhythm guitar for sure.
Yeah, like it's not boring like whatsoever. Like this music is very difficult to play, especially the next song we're going to talk about, but I just felt like there was like kind of a perfect range in it. Like vocals, yeah, sure. Especially Bruce Dickinson type of vocals where it's like air raid siren, like, big high range. But like, I'm interested when we move forward in this, how we could match up the bass and trombone on rhythm guitar, because there is such an interplay there that I think it'd be, for me, the funnest part.
I loved listening to the bass on this because, it's something that you kind of have to choose to try to listen to, because otherwise you're just going to kind of feel the bass presence. But if you choose to listen to it, you find like so much like really cool fills, like the like that kind of stuff in there, and just like I just love the articulation of the bass on it.
I think anybody who may be new to Maiden, like I challenge you, like every song you listen to, try to listen to the bass first before you listen to anything else. Screw the vocals, they're the most boring part. Screw the guitar solos. Like usually what's happening behind the guitar solos is infinitely more interesting than the guitar solo itself. I mean, they're cool too, but like, like it is a really, that's why I latched onto this band, is because there's so much from a composition standpoint, like going on, that many bands just phone in several of the parts. So Moonchild. So we both agree this song is epic. It kicks off the best album that Maiden has ever put out, and kind of sets the tone for a really weird concept that is sort of touched on for the rest of the set. Being this like dichotomy of like heaven, hell, good, evil, second vision, creepy, weird stories. Like this is a really cool album conceptually. There's all the other ones before kind of had like just like random songs on it. It felt like, little concept here and there, but not as much.
I think that's a good segue into kind of what I wanted to talk about, which is how dynamic Bruce Dickinson's vocals are on this. Bruce Dickinson and his vocals, I find that he has like kind of three things he does with his vocals to really kind of match things. One, he uses he has exceptional diction when he wants to have it. Like his T sounds, P sounds, K sounds. Like if he wants to pop it, he will pop that out. And he doesn't do it all the time. Like he does. It's not like he's always enunciating every word in every single song. But I found in Moonchild, and if you listen to the second verse of this, he's like spitting these words out because I think he's trying to like he's playing Lucifer essentially. So it's like it's nasty the way he's doing it, and he's just like such precision with that, while still at the same time just having that booming air raid sound that he has. And he doesn't always do the air raid sound either. Like sometimes he changes that up too. Like that's kind of like the second thing he does. It's like he's really good. Like, and I'm no expert on vocals. I'm going to ask over this next month. I have a wonderful colleague. Her name's Sarah Hall.
Phone a friend.
I'm going to phone a friend on this. I'm going to have a meeting with her and see if she can kind of inform me kind of some of the vocal technique. And I don't think he's studied or anything like that. He just kind of naturally does things.
He's just a naturally weird, gifted guy. He flies the team 747 like when they go on tours.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's like an Olympic level fencer. He writes the songs. He's probably like 60 something now, and he's still singing these songs with the same range, like live. Everything the guy does, he's just a freak of nature at. And so he has like the range that he's kind of like, for people who are the Zoomers on the call, he's kind of like Kendrick Lamar a little bit, right? He has like three different styles of voice that he like does. On the like Kendrick has that really high pitched one, then kind of his normal voice, then that goofy kind of voice that he does. Like it's the same thing with Bruce. He can rasp it, but he's not a raspy singer. He can blare it at the high notes without hitting falsetto, like actual singing. And then he has this mid range, which is like, I don't even know it's not a tenor or whatever. What would you classify him as? Like
you're right. He doesn't do falsetto or anything. It's like a tenor vocalist, I think would be the best thing. But he's just the way he's able to sing it and the way he has control of it. Because like sometimes, and I'm sure like the one person who's not in our family that listens to us who happens to be a vocalist or something, it's going to be like, well, you're incorrect on all these techniques.
One star.
One star. This is terrible.
It's the worst metal trombone podcast I've ever heard.
But also the best.
At the same time, 3 stars.
But like sometimes he goes into like this like head voicing, like you hear the beginning of it when he's like that the sort of like the bard kind of role.
I am he. Oh yeah.
Before like the very beginning.
Deadly sins. Seven ways all like to win. He sounds sickly like, almost.
Well, it's all like right here that he's singing from, and then when he gets into like the actual tunes, it's like he starts incorporating down to here, and he's not doing this kind of thing like you see in opera, where it's like way down that chest voice, but it's just like enough to get that like projection to it. And I found myself very drawn to that because when I'm trying to prepare trombone solos or something for recitals, it's like I feel like Bruce Dickinson really understands character and shifting in character of like to match what he's going for in the tune. And like that's the kind of thing that I work on trombone. It's like it's not all like if a piece is legato or like very smooth, it's not all smooth. Sometimes there are little notes that kind of have more that stick out a little bit more.
Shaping the note. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like and that's like it's just it's finding all of the nuances that you can get out of the music. And like the second verse of Moonchild is just like a perfect example of that, where and we'll put this, if we are able to play the music on the podcast, we'll put it right here so you can hear it. If not, we'll definitely put it in the show
4
notes.
seconds of it before it promptly shuts off, because that's all we could afford.
But we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put a link to it. But like you can hear like all the different, like sometimes he's raspy. He has like grit to his sound. Sometimes he's like clear as a bell, bellowing out. Sometimes he's like a little breathy in that one section. There's that one part where he's like, and then that kind of thing, where it's like that weird like crony kind of voice.
Yeah.
And it's all in 30 seconds that he does it. And it's just so impressive. And so like I was really drawn for that. And like I guess that's actually, speaking of segues, actually we haven't really talked about Seventh Son of Seventh Son all that much, but like that's what I'm going to be focusing on over the next month with trying to emulate on the trombone, is
vocal?
trying to get that range of vocal.
I love it. That's what I was hoping you were going to go to, and I was going to tell you to do it if you didn't say it. So
we've talked about this for a good while. Let's kind of move on to the next segment of the show.
Okay, what's the title of this segment?
Oh, I was thinking this like yesterday when I was working on the outline. Like we don't have titles for these segments. And I'm like, do we need like little like audio things too for it? I don't know. But it's almost like we should have spent more than 5 minutes planning this thing. So 7 minutes would have done us really good.
7 minutes of a Seventh Son. Yeah, no. When I was explaining this to Elizabeth, my wife Elizabeth, who has not to reveal too much, but is a very well-known podcaster and reporter of her time, and has been on like national podcasts. It was just like, I don't even want to listen to you talk about this anymore because you guys don't know what the heck you're doing. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about fair. She's like, it's going to be horrible. You don't even have a segment like listed out. And I'm like, all right, we'll improve. This is why at month to month, this is going to be better. And I hope this goes on beyond this project. I think we can like.
Oh, I think we should. I love listening to this stuff, and we'll win her over. We'll win her over.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So probably skip forward or listen to us on like 2 times or something like.
Well, you listen to like you listen to early podcasts of other shows, and it's never like great at the beginning. It's always awkward a little bit. So,
but we're going to be the exception to that.
Possibly. I don't
know. We'll see. All right. So the next section. Sorry to sidetrack.
No. It's. These are important discussions. I have this written. I have it written as metal trombone is the next segment, and this is going to be like a very short segment today because in the starting next episode, as I said before, I'm going to take a look at Moonchild specifically, or just something off of this album, and try to figure out how to put it on trombone. And I think I'm going to take the vocals from Moonchild and see what I can do with them, and I'm going to record them, and I'll send you the recording before we record the podcast together. And I'm going to ask for your perspective because you've been playing metal for a long time. You know this music very well. And this particular track and trying to emulate Bruce Dickinson, I feel like there's some things that work really well on trombone. Like the diction part works really well on trombone. Certainly his it's almost like an old lady vibrato that he has.
Right.
It's it's like,
and
it's
he can
really
hold it forever
fast.
too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like really fast, but like obviously like a slide trombone, like you can do that pretty easy.
It's built for it.
It's like that grittiness that he gets with his voice that it's the toughest part. And like I can do I can like flutter tongue or growl on the instrument, but for the most part there's not much gradation with that. It's mostly like an on or off kind of sound on the trombone.
To me, it sounds like because I've listened to you play trombone a lot, and like I feel like you've done similar things to this in the past. You've done songs where you're like talking through the trombone, giving a speech through the trombone a little bit. So I'm interested to see if you're incorporating some of those elements. But also, it feels like when you blast a trombone, when you really like get in, you kind of get like some natural distortion out of it, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Like wow.
So it's like I don't know. I'm gonna experiment a little bit with like some wah pedal connected to some sort of like
fuzz,
gritty fuzz kind of pedal too, and see if that works a little bit. But I'm just going to see what comes out of it because like I'm not going for like a note for note recreation here. I'm just going for the vibe of it. So like next month, listeners, our few listeners that we have here, that's going to be the segment that goes here.
The OGs.
Sometime. Yeah, the OGs. The few people that will listen to this very first podcast. But so we got that. That's going to be the second segment. So that's pretty much it for today on that one. But the last segment is the planning the concert.
Oh, yeah.
And this might only be for the first 6 episodes of this podcast because, like we said, our concert's in April. But I wanted to get your kind of perspective on like the typical preparation you do putting on a metal concert. I know you mentioned at the beginning you just showed up one and just did it, but like
that was like way later on because I'd played with those guys for years and years and years, and they needed a favor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so a lot. Like we probably made it a lot more complicated than it needed to be because we were like trying to emulate what Iron Maiden did on a budget that like an 18 or 17-year-old has, which included like going to the hardware store and spending $25 on like electrical switches and like rigging those into lights and like,
oh my God,
to create your own light show. That was like highly dangerous. That was like, you got a flyer. You got to have the coolest flyer ever. Like we should put some of our old flyers up on these things. So you kind of get an idea of it. But it was like an all day affair. Like we would show up like noon, 1:00, day of the show. We would set up our light trusses, our electrical board. We'd try to bring in like full stacks whenever we could. So like full Marshall stacks that are like as tall or taller than me. The drums, get it all loaded in. So we're like set and ready. So when somebody comes to the show, it's not like, oh, this band's loading in or something. It's like, no, they're set up. This is going to be
ready
a big
to go.
one.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big one. Yeah. So, and then it was like, I was a puker, like threw up before every show almost every time. I was so nervous about it. So it would take me a lot to like get like up for it, So we'd have to like go to a park and rally around and be like, all right, guys, this is it. There might've been like 4 people at the show or something, Like,
do you think you'll puke before this one?
No, I'm not going to make any promises. Arts Walk is a pretty big deal. That I should tell you, the first time we played Arts Walk, it was chaos. Like it was and that's what I'm trying to replicate here is the first time we played, it was like on a Friday night. We were playing out on the sidewalk in front of Capital City Guitars. And we were like the headline coming on. And so Arts Walk on a Friday night is very, very crowded. There's lots of people that have been drinking for a very long time. So when we come on, we are loud, just loud. And we have the fog machine shooting out of the store onto the thing. We have the light show going and we're just stacked up and we are just blasting loud. And everyone started coming over. It's like the crowd got so big, it spilled into 4th Avenue. It was blocking traffic and it got kind of out of hand so much that the store owner, Bob, who we love, called the cops on us to get us stopped because it was getting so crazy. And the cops came in and we were like, oh man, we were only like 2 songs in to our thing, 2.5 songs, and we're already getting shut down. There's people booing, blah, And so I'm sitting there and this is like 11 by now. And I'm just like, I looked to one of our friends who was at all of our shows and I was like, can you run down to the gazebo in Heritage Park and tell me if it has power to it? And so he's like, yeah, I got it, man. I got my phone charger. He just goes running down. Like 5 minutes later, he's back. He's like, it's got power. It's got power, man. I'm like, it was like this like 2 minute, not even two. It was probably like 30 seconds of us looking around like, let's continue the show at the gazebo. And the gazebo is located in Heritage Park, kind of on the corner of downtown. Have I told you this story before?
I don't think so.
Okay. So next thing you know, there's like 25 people who they're all probably drunk and everything. They're like wanting to see the show go on. And like, they're all picking up cymbals, picking up guitar cabinets, and we're rolling the whole operation up Capitol Way to the gazebo at like 11:30 at night, right? And I'm just like, let's go, let's finish the show. Yeah, come on, guys. We go over there. We get set up probably by about midnight this time, right? And how we didn't get intercepted while we're setting this up, I don't like. Have you ever seen a metal band set up in the gazebo at the park? Anyway, so at this time, like the bars are really starting to get hopping at this point, and we're just like, let's fucking bring them out, And so we just like started up the set right where we left off, and there were at that time maybe about 45 people there, like within a song and a half, maybe there were like 300 people, 400 people at this, and we were just blaring at like midnight in the park. And I turn around and like on the third song, it's like, yeah, let's go. This is so awesome. And I see about like 5 state troopers, one of which has his hand on my power cord to my amp. And it was like slow motion, like, no. Yoink. And he just yoinked it. And if you don't play guitar or whatever, like if you yoink a power cord out from a amp that's going full bore, like it is very bad for it. Not to mention my amp was broken, so when you pulled it out, like it would squelch out the loudest noise. It used to like shoot sparks out of it, like because there was something wrong with it. And we're just like, whoa, man, we're busted, gigs up, and like our drummer Dave Benson is just still playing, just like by himself. We're just like, Dave, stop playing. Stop playing. Like, and he stops. We get like sat down by the cops. All the drunk people in the park go scattering everywhere.
Of course, yeah.
It's like a party getting broken up. And I don't know how we didn't get cited for this. Like then the OPD showed up. They're all like, who's wants to do what? Because it's state property outside of their jurisdiction. They told us to F off basically. And so we loaded up our gear, and that was the first Arts Walk performance. So I imagine our concert will be something similar to that when we play. Like we're gonna get like shut the street down. So that was the first Arts Walk, and it was emblematic of the energy that Arts Walk gave, especially back in the day when the music scene was really popping in Olympia.
Oh yeah. Well, so we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna play, where we're gonna play, who we're gonna play with, what we're gonna play. Because I think we can do some covers. I'd love to do some Power Castle songs, just so I can.
Yeah.
If you're up for it.
Let's do it. We can maybe get Tim to do it. I think he's.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
Tim is so good.
I know Christian Mistress, his other band, is reforming. They're playing like a show in Texas or something like that month before, but I don't know if they're going to be on tour after that. So, but he would totally be down for something like this.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, this would be pretty funny. I'd get us a drummer too if we needed on a
Oh yeah, we'll definitely need a drummer, but that's going to be
they're
amazing.
kind of expendable, Okay, so we're woefully underprepared for this show that's in 6 months. We don't have a band. We don't have the songs. We live, you and I live, I don't think we even mentioned this. We live like 2,000 miles apart from each other in different countries.
Yes.
This sounds like a recipe for an awesome time.
Complete and
utter success. There's nothing that's going to go wrong. Yeah. Well, we got a lot. This section is going to be crazy over the next 5 months. It's probably going to be a lot of me freaking out and a lot of you trying to talk me off the wall. So,
well, I mean, so you've got your experience playing metal shows.
Sure.
in your pocket. I know you haven't done it for a while, but like you've got that experience there. So like I think you'll fit right back in. It's just for me, like as a classical trombonist, and I've gotten better at this over the years, especially with this wire and bone thing, but there's the rehearsal, and then there's the dress rehearsal, and then there's the concert, like that kind of preparation. This will be very different for me in terms of that.
No dress rehearsal. Yeah.
No dress rehearsal. We're going to have to rehearse at some point, I guess.
Sure. It's probably the same day.
Oh my God. Well,
no, I mean, we can do it. Like, we're doing this Power Castle album, and none of us are playing together. Like, we're doing it all, like, and it's wild. I think we're going to have to talk about this on the next one, but I think a combination of recording at home, passing that on, making demos, and then when the time comes, we'll have to go there a little early and get a couple rehearsals in.
Yeah. Mainly for me, man. Like, this is like completely new, but
you'll be good.
Let's go to the outro here. So I'm going to read the outro. So
yeah, let's see. This is the baseline.
Okay. All right. Thanks to all our friends and family for supporting and listening to this inaugural Brothers in Horns podcast. It's a very strange thing we're doing here, but we can't wait to see where it goes. Hit subscribe, leave us a review, send us an email at brothersandhorns@gmail.com. I signed up for that today. And be sure to check us out next month, where we'll be discussing. I had Ronnie James Dio in here, but let's discuss Ozzy, man.
Let's do Mr. Crowley.
Mr. Crowley. I love that song.
Yeah, sorry, Dio.
And we'll get to you. We'll get to Dio. So we'll be discussing Ozzy Osbourne, Mr. Crowley, maybe another tune. But with that being said, throw your horns up.
Thanks, everybody.
The Brothers in Horns podcast is produced by the Wilson Brothers. Our editor is Cade Zacharias. Thank you to the band Power Castle for providing our intro and outro music, and thank you to Grant Hamilton for designing our amazing logo. Our podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.